You're listening to The Upland Rookie, a podcast presented by Final Rise, Onyx Hunt, NSTRA, Gunner Kennels, and Inukshuk Professional Dog Food. And you're listening to episode 94 with Addison Edmonds of Gunner Kennels. NSTRA, National Shoot to Retreive Association, one of the best organizations that I have been a part of for the last several years. But I highly encourage you, check out NSTRA and think about becoming a member today. They have so much going for them in the aspects of regional or local trials, and a great community of people who are willing to help and support and encourage new dog handlers and then get them enfolded into the sport of upland hunting, dog training, and all that goes with it. Final Rise gear. Guys, this is the best, hands down, upland hunting vest on the market today. It was just awarded the 2023 Upland Hunting Vest of the Year, which is huge. Check out finalrise.com, check out all their products and much more. As always, check out onyxhunt.com. Onyx Hunt is the #1 digital mapping tool out there in the world. It is going to help open up thousands upon thousands of publicly accessible land for any bird hunter. You're going to get to know state land, boundaries, public land, you name it. You're going to get to know crop type, tree species. The list goes on of what you can do with Onyx Hunt. And heading into a new season here in the fall of 2023, it is going to be a crucial part for your bird hunting success. So download Onyx Hunt today. Use code ROOKIE20 to save you 20% off your membership at Onyx Hunt and become an elite member. It's just the best of the best of the best tier there is. So Onyx Elite member, tons of benefits that come with it. Check them out today. Inukshuk Professional Dog Food. You guys know I love Inukshuk. My dogs have been rocking it for several years now and have been performing at their best than they have on any other food brand out there. Inukshuk is a great family-owned company supporting the upland and bird hunting community, which I absolutely love. Inukshuk Professional Dog Food is a highly dense formula that gives bird dogs exactly what they need to perform in the field on long hunts, over the summer training, fall hunts, whatever it might be. Inukshuk has really put the time and effort into crafting a formula that's going to fit your dog and your needs. They have marine, they have the high 32-32, they have 30-25, they have 26-16, you name it, they got you covered. So check out inukshukpro.com. Gunner Kennels. Guys, Gunner Kennels is the best kennel brand on the market. I've personally used every kennel brand on the market today, and I have to say Gunner Kennels by far is the most high quality, durable, well thought out and designed kennel there is. Man's best friend deserves man's best kennel. They have brought that into the food crate, orthopedic pads, fans, keep your dogs cool, and then just the little details. The details in their products is second to none. Their kennels, the drain plug, the grippy feet, the handles, the vents, the door. Gosh, I cannot say enough about the door. The door is phenomenal. I love it. The latches, the safety latches, you name it. And we're actually going to hear a lot more about that on today's episode. We're going to dive in with the founder of Gunner Kennels, Addison Edmonds. And we're going to back up and hear more of his story of how Gunner got started, some of the challenges they went through as a company, and talk dogs, hunting, products, and walk you through their journey of bringing Gunner Kennels to life. And so really excited to bring you that episode today. Hope everyone's doing well. We got a new bird season about underway here for many of you. Hope everyone is experiencing some new land, just getting out there with your dogs. Snap a few photos. Would love to see what you all are experiencing, and would love to be able to reshare some of those on social media as well. So make sure to tag the Upland Rookie podcast in your photos, your stories, your reels, trials, whatever it might be. We're kicking off a new bird season here and would love to share some of your experiences, some of your highlights, your trials, your challenges, whatever you're going through. Would love to see kind of some of those come to life and see what you are experiencing. So, hey, we're going to jump into episode 94 here with Addison Edmonds. It was a great conversation, and it was fun to be able to hear more about the company of Gunner Kennels, and it's a quality one. I appreciate Addison coming on here and doing this with us. So here we go, episode 94. Been here, Addison. Thanks so much for jumping on the podcast with me. Super excited to have you on here.
Yeah,
Can you give us a quick overview for those who don't know who you are? Give us a little story of who is Addison, and put us on a map. Where are you talking to us from?
sure. So thanks for having me. My name is Addison Edmonds. I'm here in Nashville, Tennessee, where our company Gunner is located. I guess it's been like 8 or 9 years ago. I started working on starting a company called Gunner Kennels. I wanted to make the best travel kennel for my dog Gunner, and then start getting into other products, dog products, because in my opinion they're all pretty poor quality. So we've been doing it for about 8.5 years now, and yeah, I think we've saved a lot of dogs, and we've worked pretty hard to get here, but we've still got a long way to go.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. No, Gunner has been putting out some incredible products over the years, and I can't believe it's only been 8 years. You said? Okay.
Yeah, we launched in 2015, um, and that was launched the website. We started delivering kennels about now, July, August of 2015. So yeah, right around 8 years.
Yeah, right on, man. Right on. Well, I'm super excited to unpack more about the company, more about Gunner Kennels, some of the design and thought process behind the company. But I also want to get to know you a little bit more. You talk a little bit about waterfowl versus upland. What's your a little bit of your hunting background as far as waterfowl and upland goes? Are you primarily waterfowl guy, or catch us up on that?
Yeah, I'd say primarily waterfowl, but really whatever's in season. I grew up and just always wanted to hunt, so BB guns and doves in the backyard, and deer and turkey, and a little bit of waterfowl growing up. And then when I got to college at the University of Mississippi, did a lot more waterfowl, and that's when I got Gunner. But I love to hunt and fish whatever, whenever. So I've done more waterfowl, but I've gotten on a good number of upland hunts, and really enjoy it, and just seeing how similar but also very different it is from waterfowl.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Back us up even a little bit further. Was hunting really a part of your family growing up? Was it something your mom, your dad, your grandpas did? Like, take us back a little bit further. Where did that passion start to develop for you?
Yeah, my mother's father, they had 12 kids, and he was a big fisherman, but big outdoorsman, big into hunting and fishing. He taught me how to fish, and so I had one side of the family that all my cousins and uncles, we would go hunting together. My dad didn't really hunt growing up, but he knew I wanted to. I think it kind of stems from just wanting to be John Wayne when I was little, and wanting to be a cowboy, and just always wanted to be outside. And so got into, hunting and fishing very early, and just, great memories growing up with my cousins and uncles and dad on different fishing and hunting trips.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is the kind of the outdoor hunting, fishing culture, is that something now you and your kids have gotten into as well? Like how's that process been now, having your own kids and exposing them to the outdoors and all that
Yeah,
fishing have to offer?
big time. I mean, I started this company for my dog Gunner, and I kind of in the back of my head thought I might be able to go on hunts and call it work, And so it's very like a more of a selfish thing just to be able to get on more hunts. But now that we've got 4 kids, I mean, I've been taking my 8-year-old. I've been taking her hunting since she was 3.5 or 4, and they all love it. We eat a ton of wild game, even when they were little. So we had 3 girls and then a boy, and the boy is 4. So for the first 3 years of the girls, I didn't know we were going to have a boy, so I was kind of forcing them into being tomboys. So any dark meat we had was deer meat. So they'll go to parties now, like at a birthday party, and be like, "Do you want anything to eat?" My 6-year-old will go, "Do you have any deer meat?" Because I just think that any dark meat's either deer, duck, or dove. But I truly enjoy, taking them and teaching them. My 8-year-old's now at the age where if we go deer hunting and we've got some time to talk, like she gets it and we get to look at all the wildlife. And I just think that it's the best way to raise your kids in the outdoors. And so, my whole goal has gone from a selfish, I want to go hunting, to where I want to be able to have some property one day where I can take them, hunting, fishing anytime.
Yeah. I love when that perspective shifts a little bit, when it becomes
Yeah.
less about filling tags or filling limits and all that kind of things, and more about kind of what you said of the experience with your kids. And,
Yeah.
you may not have seen a bird all day, but you know what, the conversations with the kids and the long drive kind of makes it worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. My 8-year-old Marie, she shot her first turkey this year. I didn't even shoot a turkey this year, but she shot one. And I'm usually not a very emotional guy. We were driving back in the truck and I was trying to tell her, you're always going to remember your first turkey. And I just started crying and I was like, what are these emotions? Like, I don't remember the last time this I ever felt like this. So it's exciting.
It changes,
Yeah.
man. That's so fun for you, Addison. What is it about hunting and the outdoor industry? Again, just the nature, animals, wild game, all that stuff. Like, what is it that keeps you coming back? Like, what's the kind of the driving factor? Is it the connection with family and kids and friends? Like, what do you think that is for you, for people in general, even?
I mean, for me, it's always been, that's my church, like going out and seeing God's glory,
Hmm.
and seeing just how he built everything. So that's primarily like I get to reset. Anytime I'm in the outdoors, it just inspires me to go back and work harder, so I can do more of it. And number two is just watching the dog work, especially with one that you've trained, and being able to kind of see that effort come about. And it turned into, growing up, it was primarily deer and turkey. When I got big into waterfowl, and I've always just loved dove season, but it was really whatever I could take Gunner on. So if I could take him on a quail hunt, great. He couldn't point, he'd flush, but he loved it.
Sure.
And so, it's being out in nature and kind of just really observing how everything is made, and then number two, watching the dogs work.
Yeah, I love that, man. So I know you're a lab guy. Have you always had labs? Has that kind of just been your dog?
Yeah, my first dog was a American chocolate lab, and then I got a female chocolate lab, and then with Gunner, he was a British chocolate lab that when I got him. So I've always been a chocolate lab guy, even so much like they're kind of the underdog in the lab world. And so I really liked that. But after he passed away, I've now got Chevy, who's a almost 2-year-old yellow lab, but very red color,
So you switched it up.
I switched, and I wasn't like extremely excited about it because I wanted another chocolate, but I also thought it was just time to try something different. And Chevy's just his bloodline and his demeanor, he's kind of got the full package. So I'm excited about that.
That's awesome. I know you mentioned bloodlines. I'm big in bloodlines and breeding history and all that stuff. Do you get pretty nerdy on that when you're looking at new dogs, or how much stake do you put in that?
Uh, when I'm looking at new dogs, so I found the only time that I'm like really concerned about that was with Gunner's bloodline. And then I met somebody who's like, hey, I started my business because of my dog was like this once in a lifetime dog. And I was an engineer. It's Colton Thompson from Maker's Calls, but he's like, I was an engineer and decided to, make my world around this dog. And he's like, I think my dog is a once in a lifetime dog like yours. And I was like, you're from around where I got Gunner. Let me see that dog's bloodline. And turns out that dog that he was talking about had the same parents as Gunner, or maybe grandparents. They're very close. But and then with with finding a new dog, I was able to find some of the same dogs in the bloodline. I think back in the day, they were way overbred for the good ones,
Oh, I'm
and
sure.
so they threw a lot of different dogs. But yeah, there's some relation going back to Gunner and
So
my new dog.
Chevy and Gunner have some similarity, parents and grandparents, something like that.
Yeah, like pretty far removed, like
Yeah.
as far back as you can tell on the line,
Okay.
but something,
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. With the labs again, real quick on those, you mentioned British labs. Have all your labs been British labs or more the American?
So American growing up, and then when I got to college, I had 4 or 5 other roommates, and I was thinking, man, my other labs have always just chewed up everything for the first year, and so I looked into it, and supposedly British labs had a little bit calmer temperament and didn't really chew as bad. So got Gunner, he was British, and there was a difference.
Really?
To me, he really didn't chew on it. I mean, I was pretty strict with him, but I give him like an old box of shotgun shells, like the cardboard, and a shed antler, and he'd just chew on that. And
Wow.
he chewed on one turkey call, and I got onto him. And he never really chewed on anything else again.
Wow.
So
Okay.
ever since then, I've kind of been in that mindset. I love a good big American lab.
Sure.
There's just something about them, but yeah, I'm probably more of a British or English lab guy now.
Yeah. I mean, having the two different ones now, as far as hunting styles go, drive, all that, has there been any difference there?
So my first two growing up didn't really hunt, but I've hunted around a lot of American dogs, and not much. I mean, the American dogs seem to be like slow and steady, like reserved old man kind of feel for the most part. And then there's the Upland dogs that I've been around. I'm sorry, the British dogs that I've been around seem to be like very smart and very has a high drive, like almost to where they're like a little bit crazy because of the drive, So I don't know. I'm probably going to upset one side or the other because the reality is no dog's perfect,
Sure.
and a mutt can be the best dog ever,
Yeah.
and so there's pros and cons to both, but I do think just the Americans seem a little bit more reserved,
Okay.
and that's a good thing.
Sure. Absolutely. No, they're cool dogs for sure. But no, whenever I have, again, all the time, I'm like 1 month I'm looking at labs, 1 month I'm looking at cockers, 1 month I'm looking at more Brittany's. I'm like, it changes. You get excited about a dog and you look into them and you go, yeah, they're all different. They all offer something unique. And
I don't know how you do it. I really don't. With 6 kids, and I mean, with Chevy, like I wasn't necessarily ready to. I was pretty. I was really bummed when Gunner passed away, so I wasn't ready to like feel that again.
sure.
But the kids, we had a poodle that got ran over like the day before Christmas, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna get one, but I knew I didn't have time with how busy I am with work, so he's in school a lot right now, and my wife got she got a mutt at a show in Colorado, a rescue, I should say,
Okay.
mutt, but named Toast, and he's a firecracker. But we all have to take care of him, and
Yeah.
I don't know how I could add one more thing to take care of in terms of getting another dog, because
Yeah.
I want to do it right. Like their formative years, that first 18
Sure.
months, 2 years, that's when they learn, and I guess I don't know. I'm just not as good of a dog trainer anymore. I don't have the time or what,
Yeah.
but I could.
I mean, time's a struggle. It's a struggle. I mean, so I'm down to 2 Brittany's now. I had a third and I sold to a guy down in Arizona. And he's doing great down there. It was a good decision. But I was at that point where 3 dogs and then my life and work and all that stuff right now. 3 dogs is a little much for me. And so moved on with him. And so 2 feels like a sweet spot. But even them, thinking about, conditioning them for the season, brushing up on some training for them. So it's a struggle for sure. Just the time balance.
Yeah. Well, I need to learn some better time management skills.
It's tough for sure. I was going to ask with Chevy. So your young dog now, you said almost 2, right?
Yep.
Okay. Are you trying to do some of the training yourself? Are you using a pro trainer? What have you been working on this summer?
Yeah. So the way I looked at it, that was kind of why I jumped into getting him so quickly. I was like, if I end up not having the time to train him, I know that there's a trainer hour and a half north of here. He's part of the Southern Oak Kennels group, and Miles Durham. I was like, I've got to back up if I don't have the time. So I trained him for the first few months, really just that basic stuff, and then he would go back and forth. And then when he comes back, I'll spend the first couple of days not really working him, just kind of getting him acclimated, me acclimated, because the commands are different than what I'm used to. And so I want to make sure that I'm getting that right. We had our first season together last year. He did great. I mean, phenomenal. I never got a chance to talk with the trainer and like let him train me on how to work Chevy.
Sure.
So it was kind of his instinct, and he's probably thinking I speak a different language, but yeah. So when he's back, I mean, I think he's got a hunt test tomorrow actually, and then I get him back on Sunday. But yeah, just still, I'm a big believer in basic. Stay in here needs to be the most important. So that's what I'll try to get back into, is just the basics with him, and then work into different power work and T-drill and all that.
Sure. That's awesome, man. Well, definitely want to dive in some more about the company, Gunner, some of your products that you guys are working on. But I don't think it's probably right to go on any further without talking a little bit about Gunner a little bit more. Can you catch our listeners up on this dog, Gunner? What did he mean to you? What kind of dog was he? And just give us a little insight on the dog, Gunner.
Yeah, so he was my main man. I mean, I got him my junior year of college, and I just got lucky with that dog. All he wanted to do was retrieve, and like within the first couple of days, something clicked where I knew how to talk to him in terms of just no or yes, you did what I asked, and here's a retrieve as a reward. And so he could do anything, but his drive for retrieving was just incredible. And so we tore it up. We hunted together all the time. When he was just a puppy, I'd bring him to the camp and get him to play with the ducks afterwards and throw him around a little bit. But I brought him back to the square in Oxford. And just because he's a puppy, these girls came up and started talking to me, and one of them said, I want to introduce you to my nanny. I think you're going to marry her one day. And I was like, that's really weird. I'd probably rather not. And so it took a while, but we finally ended up meeting. Lo and behold, we ended up getting married and having 4 kids. So I kind of selfishly say Gunner's the reason why I have like this, the life that I've got now.
Sure.
With an incredible wife and 4 kids, and even just the business. Like, I had an old Remington $60 crate in the back of my truck, and I was, towards the end of college, like I was always thinking, what kind of invention, what kind of product, what would work, because I knew I wanted to do something with hunting or fishing, and Gunner was my kind of everything. If I had any time, it was with Gunner. And so the kennel rolled over one day, and I was like, I think I can make the best travel dog crate out there. And so that's when I kind of started working on the plans. I started an advertising company in college and sold that and used that money to get this started. But, we went on some incredible hunts together. There was like 5 times towards the end of his, from age like 8 to 12, every year I'd be like, Emily, I've got to go on this hunt. This could be his last season. And so I used that excuse for so long. She's finally like, no, this is not going to be his last season, but go.
Yeah.
And, I remember calling her multiple times going, I could hang it up. He could retire right now. Like, we just killed an 8-man limit in 30 minutes, and he did incredible. And just, I don't know, he was just a really special dog, and I think we just knew each other without having to talk. And that, when they passed away, it just crushed me.
That wasn't that long ago, right?
Yeah, no, about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. I took him to work every day, and, I'm confident saying I've never seen a dog that had that drive. I've seen some better dogs, like Gunner whined when it was slow, and towards the end, he'd like bark almost if it was slow.
He's like, come on, let's go.
Yeah. He fought other male dogs because one day, my buddy's dog tried to take the bumper from him. It was a black male black lab. And he tried to take the bumper from him in the middle of the pond, and Gunner almost drowned him. And like, from then on, if he see a black dog or a male dog, like he'd start growling. And then it just turned into, he was always trying to fight other male
Oh,
dogs,
wow.
which was a little bit annoying, but like his drive and just, he could be pretty far away and he could know exactly what I'm trying to say.
Wow.
It's just a special dog.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. With again, with you getting him, it sounds like right out of college or during college time, were you like, were you doing a lot of the training with him yourself? Were you like, who were you learning from on how to train this bird dog?
Yeah. Yeah. It was all, I mean, it was just, I think I was taking like, I was like on that coast where I was taking the minimum amount of hours. And so I was with him all the time and built him a little kennel going around our house. And I asked the breeder, what should I use to train him? And he suggested a book. I think it's Vic Barlow's British Training for the American Retriever. And I read the puppy, like the first chapter is the puppy phase, and it's all about sit, stay, and here and being the leader of the pack.
Okay.
And from there, your typical like Water Dog and Robert Aiken DVD series. Like I would just take a little bit from, from different trainers with what worked best for me. And we didn't get into the trials or hunt tests. I took him to one when he was a little dog, and I was like, man, I think he could get this, but he was more of a meat dog. Like I didn't care if he cheated, didn't take a straight line and went around a little finger of water to get a bird so he could, save his energy. But he was one of those dogs too, where it's like, if I'm hunting with another dog trainer and I'm trying to impress him, it's like, he will flop and totally screw up. It's like, hey, my dog he really never does this. Like he's usually a lot better than this. Which I think is it's comical because, I probably going into the hunt, oh, Gunner's perfect. You're going to, you're not going to believe how
We've
good.
all said that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
We've all said it. We take a buddy out, we take someone out with us. We're like, oh, watch this, watch my dog.
Yeah.
And then they make a fool of you.
I think we've actually got some hats coming out that say, my dog never does this. But yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, let's turn a little bit to the business side, Addison, talking a little bit more about Gunner. I know you kind of alluded to it sounds like you saw a problem as far as the crates that were on the market. Talk a little bit more about, what gave you the drive to really then say, okay, I'm going to make a brand new kennel that is, what Gunner is today.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot that went into it. Just like all the time I was spending with my dog and hunting and experiences I had with customer service with like different companies. Like I kind of, I just kept formulating, how I was going to do this and what I was going to do. And I knew I wanted to have the best dog crate, which number one meant the safest, and then just the best features, like a drain plug to be able to drain dirt and actually have the water come out, a lockable latch so I'm not worried somebody's going to steal my dog, a way to tie it down in the back of my truck, in case I get in a wreck. And so just kind of had a big to-do list of what the next big thing I had to figure out was, and just kind of went down the list every day. And it was pretty frustrating in the beginning when I'm telling people like, I'm going to make, the best dog kennel ever. It's probably going to be more expensive, but that wasn't like a goal. Like, it's just, nobody got it. Like everybody's like, why would you? Cause at the time there was a $60 crate or there's a $2,000 aluminum box that takes up your whole back of your truck. And I didn't have $2,000 and I didn't want to use up the whole back of my truck too. So, it didn't click with a lot of people, but I remember explaining it to Emily when we were dating, and she was just like, I can see it from here. And I'm like, well, can you explain it a little bit? Cause I don't know what it looks like. I'm trying to figure out how to get this thing to look good and be the best dog kennel. But, yeah, she's always been just a firm believer in like my vision for what this company, can be in terms of like, we've made a ton of errors. I'm not an engineer, and we've made a ton of errors in the product, as we go. And so one thing that I've learned is I wanted to have the best customer service because I was so frustrated with other businesses' customer service. And like, I had a good experience once with Browning, and I was like, I'm always going to shoot a Browning shotgun. And while, I think that's different now with them, but I still shoot a Browning shotgun because I had such a good experience, and I'm very loyal like that. Yeah. So I tell our customer service team, like, you've got the freedom to make it right. Whatever you think that means, make it right for somebody that's upset, because they trusted us to buy our products. And, we try to make our products. Our kennels are made in America. Most all of our products are made in America. A couple of accessories aren't, but we try to do everything in America and do it the right way. And unfortunately, that costs more. But we try to, build our pack in terms of people that are aware of Gunner by trying to make the best dog products and have the best marketing and even the best place to work. Our culture is something that's very important to Emily and I. And you can bring your dog to work, and we try to make it a pretty fun environment. Although, the last 8 years, everybody's worked like 10 different jobs 24/7. But we've got some good growth, and I think we're on the right track.
That's awesome, man. Well, now's probably a good time as we're kind of talking more about the company, some products and that. I know we got Colton joining us. Colton, you still there, man?
How's it going?
Awesome, man. Good. Colton, why don't you introduce yourself real quick for everyone?
Yep, I'm Colton Breeding, and I am the product development engineer here at Gunner. I've been here for, I think, around 2-ish years, maybe 2.5 years or so, and love every day of it.
Right on, man. Right on. And you got a few bird dogs yourself. What do you got?
I do. I have 2 GSPs and 2 English setters.
Right on, man.
And
Good.
they are spaced out in age pretty well. I've got a 12-year-old setter and a 4-year-old setter, and then a 5-year-old GSP and an 8-year-old GSP.
Okay, so, right on, man.
Good age range.
Spacing.
Like it may be time for the 5th. It seems appropriate now.
There you go, man. But, more dogs, more better.
Yeah, but no, they're rocking and rolling. They all have very different personalities, of course. Especially the setters versus the GSPs, so they cancel each other out as far as their personalities, for sure.
That's a great balance, man. Well, thanks for joining us, and then we're going to talk a little products here in a little bit. Addison, going back to you, man. Real quick, more on the company as you develop this. What were some challenges? I know you kind of mentioned kind of getting people to understand why they needed a better dog kennel. What were some other challenges as starting a company from nothing, basically? What were some challenges that you had to overcome? And maybe the list is too long, but if you had to narrow it down.
There was so many crazy moments. Like, I couldn't even, I don't know where to start. I mean, into year 1, I was doing everything just myself, and customer service, accounting, product development, like manufacturing, order fulfillment, returns. I ended up in the hospital with shingles. And my board was like, you've got to start hiring people. And Emily started working just because she saw how underwater I was. So she started doing customer service and marketing. And so we were a very small, there was like 3 of us for a year or 2 trying to do everything. And then we grew to probably 5 and 8 and then 12. And then, then we're right around 30 employees now. But it was it's always going to be something where I'm like, okay, this is it. We're going to have to shut the doors. And my dad taught me, he started his business 20 some years ago. And he was like, you're always going to have something. You just got to figure out how to get through it. Like there's always gonna be something that's going to make you think you're done. This is it. And you just got to keep figuring out. I think we were, we always had a profitability issue just because I was so obsessed with quality that we never made great margins. So we're starting off kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. And so we had trouble keeping up with demand, and, sales were always good. Word of mouth references were always good. But just sometimes cash got tight, and we just figured out a way to make it work. And I'm trying to think of any good hurdles. Like, I think one time I was changing manufacturers, and the owner, so I own the tools that the kennels are being made of, and the owner said, I'm not giving you your tools back. And we had like hundreds of customers that had already placed the order, and we were supposed to switch tools that day. I unloaded my trailer that night. I was like, I'm just going to have to drive 13 hours and go get my tools and bring them to the new manufacturer myself. And thankfully, we were able to figure that out in the morning. But I mean, it was it's my livelihood. Like it's like, there's been so much. I'm having a hard time pegging it down to like one or two good stories, but you just got to figure it out. And then, hiring the right people has been the biggest help of like, I'm not really good at anything. I'm okay at a little bit of everything, but hiring somebody that's great at what they do, so that's less that I've got to focus on. And also we're going to be doing it better now with the right people.
And so much so, you said you don't have any engineering background, right? So when you're starting to design these kennels, is that where people like Colton come in and other design team members to kind of build these things?
Yeah, like I've worked with a contract engineer to design it, and I kind of walked through what I wanted, all the features, what the kind of theme should be, had the feeling of it, and then we'd start sketching stuff out, and I'd say, yes, like the top half part, make it look like this, and the bottom half, let's change it to that, and kind of just going through like that. And I should have taken engineering. I probably would have failed it, but I've always been like just, tinker. Like I can kind of work on anything, and I enjoy using my hands. So I've always been somewhat handy, just it's kind of more self-taught. So it's usually going to break within a week or two if it's something that I do. But
that's awesome. Hey, Colton, for you, for folks out there, maybe we got some new listeners who are just getting into hunting, bird dogs, all that kind of stuff. Can you catch them up on what makes a gunner kennel a little bit different than in some other brands out there on the market, than like Addison said, versus your $60 kennel at a big box store?
Yeah, like kind of like Addison said, the engineering that went into the back end of it, overall material selection and quality of the manufacturing is something that we really focus on with each and every product. And that's mainly all just customer based. We want our customers to have the most premium product and the most durable and safe product that they can have to use. Because, when you're spending time with your dog, whether you're training or just out around the house or traveling, you want them to have the best life, out there for themselves. So you want to be able to provide that. So having the best gear is really the first start in that process,
Yeah, absolutely. Can you guys, either one of you can answer this question, talk a little bit more about the safety aspect of the gunner kennels? I know I've seen some safety testing you guys have done. There's been some really cool stories that you guys have seen, or you guys have been able to repost and things like that. Talk about the safety aspect of that. Cause I think, at least for me, sometimes you don't think about that, but when you see some stories like this happen, some car crashes, things like that, on guys on hunting trips, it kind of makes you think and go, wow, that's a real possibility.
Yeah. So my first objective was like, of making the best kennel is make it the safest. And I never thought like this kennel might save other dogs' lives. I was just selfishly like, I want to build a kennel for Gunner where I am not always freaking out while I'm driving, where I can actually comfortably drive knowing I've done everything I can do to provide him with the just the best chances of survival if I was to get wrecked. Because nobody ever thinks they're going to get wrecked. So looking at different materials, I found rotational molding. It's like how a kayak or a portable gas tank or a Yeti cooler, those are all roto-molded. So engineered a double wall roto-molded. The first time I worked with a designer, I was like, I want a double wall roto-molded dog kennel. And he's like, it's impossible. You can't do that. So like, there's been so many times of somebody saying that to me. And so the safety part of it, I knew we wanted to be able to, I put rubber feet on the bottom so it doesn't slide around, tie down pins on the top, and then the double wall roto-molded plastic for the body of the kennel. And I found I wanted to do some crash testing, and I found a organization called the Center for Pet Safety they had dummy dogs to do crash tests on, and they're all doing harness testing. And I called her up and I said, I'd like to crash test our dog kennels. And she just laughed and she said, they don't make a dog kennel that's strong enough to survive these crash tests. They're very, very violent. And I just laughed. I said, well, you've never met a redneck from Tennessee, and it's game on now. And so
now we have to.
So I sent her up some prototypes, and at the time it had a wire mesh door. And
so real quick, Addison. So this was before the kennels actually launched, even?
Yeah,
Okay.
this was like I got my first 2 kennels in the back of my truck, but we weren't. I wanted to do crash testing first, and still had to do like a lot of work to get it started. So we did a crash test. The dummy dog just went right through the door. I mean, just like a tinfoil. And so I started thinking, so Emily was pregnant. We had just sold our first house. We were living in my parents' basement, trying to move into this house where I was also the contractor on it. And I remember being downstairs in my parents' basement being like, we need a door frame. So it's its own system. And we need I'd found glass-filled injection. What's it called? Glass-filled nylon. Mm-hmm. And so I just raised some money. I was not intending to have to revamp our whole door, but I did. And I blew through like all of the extra buffer that I raised, because we did, the tooling on that was very expensive, but designed it real quick, did another crash test. The dummy dog blew through. And I'm like, shit. So what now? And then I thought, well, these rivets on the hinge are aluminum. Let's do stainless steel. Blew through again. And I'm thinking, all right, well, it's breaking, it's blowing through at the paddle latch in the middle. Let's put backup latches on the top and bottom of them. So we designed that up, made them, crash tested. Right before the crash test, I was sick to my stomach. I was like, if this fails, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I'm pretty much out of ideas. And lo and behold, it worked. And so
to little pedal,
adding the backup, and it was a combination of like the new door, the door frame, the backup latches, the stainless steel rivets. And so when that worked, I was like, all right, now we're ready, and we launched. And a few months later, there was a pilot study done by Subaru of America and the Center for Pet Safety, where they had a crate crash test worthiness study. And they called me up and said, you won top performer. And it put us on Good Morning America and USA Today. And like, we got all of this huge press, so much that like, I just made this from a hunting dog. And that was kind of the brand I was envisioning, but it was going to non-hunting dogs, which was always my vision. But I wanted to start with like that hunting dog crowd. And then we started getting stories that, hey, I totaled my truck and the kennel saved my dog's life. And like, just recently we had 2 different people call us that their house burned down and there was a kennel inside, and other kennels as well, but the dog in the gunner kennel survived. Now, we're not here to say it's like fireproof or anything, but I mean, it's crazy. We probably publish a tenth of the stories that we get in. Some of them, there's like investigations, and there's been some very bad wrecks, so we can't publish about it from insurance and all that. But it's wild how many, and the rough numbers is, I think we've got about 75 saved stories that we're aware of. Now, I'll go out fishing with a buddy, and the guide will say, hey, my best friend has your kennel. He actually got in a wreck and saved the dog's life. And I'll be like, well, did he tell us about it? He's like, no. And so there's other wrecks out there, safe stories that we don't even know about. But it's crazy to see that happen when I just wanted a better, mode of transportation for my dog. Yeah. And that it's actually like changing people's, lives, because it saves their dog,
Absolutely. And the last thing on the safety aspect is, so not just, you talked a lot about the door and the dog kind of going through the door and securing that. I think I've seen some videos of you guys posted, even like, I don't want to say
crushing it.
Yeah, the crushing aspects too, because other kennels will just, I've seen flatten like a pancake. And so is that just the roto molding, or what is that?
Yeah, that's like the structural integrity. And that was just, I'm like that. I took it to a testing facility. They had this big vise, and I'm like, break this kennel. I want to see how much it'll hold. And it kept breaking the machine at 4,000 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And so much so that they're like, we're not going to test it anymore because it keeps breaking our machine. And so,
well, that's good for me to know.
Yeah. So then dropping that big sled on it, that was just to kind of see how tough is this thing. And so I like to do my own tests, like throwing it off a cliff or shooting it with a shotgun and seeing like what it can take. But then it's hard to kind of, I don't know, publish that stuff. So third party testing facilities that actually do it correctly with controlled environments and stuff like that. Like, yeah, we're really big. And even so, like UV testing to replicate like being out in the sun, freezing, hot, humidity, like, and new products, how much a dog can chew. And so we really want to, that was the plan, was like, I want to make this dog kennel the safest and most durable, and leverage, if we have a name for quality and customer service and making the best products, then I want to go into making all of the products for dogs that you can make and make the best, and try to continue that name for ourselves that we're trying to build.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know you mentioned too, the temperature control. It's one of the things I've really appreciated about my kennels is, again, you can probably talk more to this, but is it the thickness or the material that keeps it pretty darn cool in there when I'm out early season, September, October hunting? It's
That's something too. Like, we definitely talk about how it'll keep your dog warmer in the winter. It's hard to talk about cooler in the summer because you never know the situation, if it's an older dog or if they park. Like, I'll always say park in the shade if you can.
Yeah.
Just kind of be smart, throw ice in there if it's extremely hot. But it's really, it's a couple things. It's the rubber feet. If we're talking about being in the back of a truck, it's the rubber feet that keep it off of that truck bed. And then it's the double wall and just thicker and better plastic that sun and, the heat just can't get to as much. So you put a fan on there, you park in the shade, you throw some ice in there, like, it's going to stay cool.
Yeah.
But it's tough to really advertise that because I'm just always nervous. Somebody's gonna be like, oh, well, it's 115 degrees out here, and my 12-year-old dog just ran 4 miles and should be fine in the parking lot for the next 4 hours. And like, I just don't, so still got to be smart.
Absolutely. I'll just say the rubber feet have been golden. Those things are killer. I've told my listeners this for a long time. I have tried personally every other kennel brand on the market, landed on Gunner and went, this is the one I'm sticking with. Just again, it's all those little details. It's the extra little safety latches, the drain plugs, the feet. And when you see these products in hand, it makes a difference.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah. I appreciate seeing the little things, because I think I focus way too much on the little things.
I can feel it. So I think your customers do too. A question for either one of you on this one. Can you guys talk a little bit about importance of kennel size? I get people even reaching out to me a lot of going, kennel size. Should I have a 30-pound dog? Should I do the big intermediate? Or can you talk about that a little bit? Because I think there's a misconception on you. People always need a really big kennel for their dog to stretch out and all that kind of stuff. Can you guys talk about that?
I'm going to let Colton take it after, go ahead, Colton, and then I might finish up.
So it's mainly a safety aspect thing. In the event of an impact or a crash, something like that, you really want the dog to be have a tight fit or a fairly snug fit in his kennel, just so he's not moving around too much, in the event of an impact or something like that. At home, I would prefer, a bit larger size of the kennel, for them to space out. But as far as traveling goes, you definitely want them to be, snug fit for safety.
Yeah. And I built the intermediate for Gunner. He was a 65-pound Choco Lab. So when there's a dog that's like 85 pounds where it could fit in an intermediate, it could fit in a large, kind of depends on height and length and all that. And so that's something that we've tried to be very educational about. But dogs are den animals. They like going in and getting into a small spot. I've seen some Gunner and Chevy, like, they'll try to get in a medium when they're definitely not for a medium-sized kennel. Like, they want to ball up. But what I always tell people, like, if you've got a large dog that's, over 85 pounds, a large kennel is probably right for you. I put two dogs, Gunner and our other dog Goose, both about 60, 65 pounds, and an intermediate for shorter trips under 4 hours. I would open up both doors of the kennel in the back of the truck. They both go in one and just sit there. So I'd say, okay, riding together. But yeah, it's all about like, and not only impacts, it's just driving anywhere. If you're driving and you have to, if you're taking, coming out on a big highway, you got to slam on the gas or you have to slam on the brakes, and it's not necessarily a wreck, but just that movement. You don't want them going from the front to the back and have a lot of room to build up speed.
If you're not a member of NSTRA, National Shoot to Retrieve Association, I'd highly encourage you, check out NSTRA today, become a member, check out a local trial near you. I guarantee you're going to find something somewhat close to you, jump into a great community of people who are going to help you understand the game more, trialing, training of your bird dog, and a whole bunch more. Check out NSTRA today. Yeah, that makes sense a lot. It's an important aspect. Moving on to a different product that's actually pretty brand new for you guys. I know it's not as grand or as large as a kennel, but you guys came out with a brand new bumper, which is pretty sweet. I've been using this with my dog Gage. Gage is my force fetch dog. Win is not, and so she's like, oh my God, so I gotta work on force fetching her. But Gage has been loving this thing. Can you guys talk about the brand new bumper and what led you guys to design that?
Yeah, I mean, when I started the business, when I started the company, man's best bumper is what I wrote down on my goal board. Like it was number 6 out of 35 goals. So it's something that I've been wanting to do.
When you started, so years and years ago.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I mean, it was 8 years. It was in 2015. Emily and our new baby were out of town, and I was down in my shop, and I just took this big 4x8 sheet of plywood and wrote out 35 goals. Anytime I'd check one off, I would drink, I'd make a glass of Blanton's bourbon and kind of celebrate.
There you go.
And so it's everything from like an all-weather kit to over 10,000 units in sales. And like it's a lot of lofty goals where I thought, if I get any of these, this is going to be pretty cool. But the bumper, I was just frustrated with, similar to how I was frustrated with kennels, I was frustrated with low-quality bumpers that if you leave it in the yard with the dog for 5 minutes, they tear it up like that and you can't use it anymore. So the overall kind of durability was my number one. And then similar to the door on the kennel, like it's got to be the cherry on the top, the rope on any bumper, if they tear the rope off or if it gets old and frays or it also mildews, like that was what we had to figure out next. So we have extremely durable material rope that you can replace or you can remove or you can adjust it to your preference, so that even if a dog was able to chew up the rope, you can still use the bumper and we can get you a new rope and keep on moving. So like the bumper's still operable for puppies. You can take the rope off. And so that was kind of the number 2 thing. And then just being able to carry a lot of them out to the field. I really wanted like some type of a hole that you could put a carabiner through at the end of a loop at the end of the rope. And so I loved the rope. We went through a lot of iterations where, it's got that loop at the end that I thought you'd just stick your finger through. Well, in testing other bumpers, and some of those bumpers have knobs at the end of them, like that's a pretty comfortable way to throw it. So I was like, why can't we have both? And so we did a little half of a knob below that loop so you can use that too. And that's kind of my preferred method, is using that half of a ball. But it went from there to like, and granted, dogs, any dog can chew anything up. We try to, we're trying to explain like, if you take care of this bumper, it can last you a really long time. If you leave it out in the yard with the dog, it can chew it up, but it'll last longer than others will. And what we've seen is just the core of the body like will hold together better to where it's still operable. But the shape of it, necking it down in the middle was something that we thought would kind of make the dogs naturally want to grab it in the middle for a proper hold. And then also just having the holes in there to be able to breathe more oxygen when retrieving. And I think tell me if I'm wrong. I'm glad Colton's on here because I've got a terrible memory, but we designed the hole originally for the to be able to breathe, and then I think I was like, oh, what if we could put feathers in here? And
the scent came shortly after.
It just naturally fit, and it was like, wow, this is something. Like, I hate doing that electrical tape and duck feathers because
We've all done it. We've all tried it.
Yeah, and like I hang my bumpers outside of my big kennel, like a big Track Supply kennel, and if you've got wings wrapped around the outside, it gets rained on, and they just don't last, after a few uses. So being able to hold them in there and preserve it, and seeing it work with dogs and puppies especially. We watched Luke's puppy, his first retrieve ever. He took the rope off, put feathers in it, threw it. The puppy went and got it in the middle and brought it right back to him. It's just like, if you keep that rope off of there for long enough, the dog's never going to know anything but grabbing it in the middle.
Sure.
So it's just used to that, versus you see a lot of puppies bringing it back by the rope because it's kind of the easiest thing to grab.
Yeah. So that's crazy. So that whole scent cavity thing, because on the opposite end of where the rope is, you have that little plug almost, right?
Yeah.
And so that whole cavity originally wasn't in the thought process until you started thinking about the center?
To make the holes in the center, you had to have that cavity. And so when we 3D printed it, it was like, oh, wow, we can do this. And that's where then the plug came to keep it in there. And then we started, a big cause of concern was, well, what if somebody does leave this out with their dog and they rip this plug out and choke on it? Mm-hmm. And so we made it, it's like, it's almost frustrating to try to get it out with just
I would agree.
Because we don't want a dog to be able to pull that out and potentially choke on. So we try to, educate on that. Like, hey, this is a training tool. It's not a tug of war toy, and it's not something you just leave with your dogs to chew up. Because that the last thing we want is if a dog is able to get that.
Totally.
Which actually the size of it passes like the only choking hazard,
specific choking hazard standards
for kids. There's none on dogs, but it passes that.
It does.
Oh, wow.
But
very specific cubic size that they recommend as a choking hazard, and this one doesn't qualify for that.
Okay.
So, but the tight fit was very specific intention in there. To be hard to get out.
Yeah, so. I would attest. The first couple of times you're like, wait a second, am I doing this wrong? But then once you get the hang of it, you figure it out. Yeah. So would you almost recommend just leaving, let's say someone picks up a couple bumpers, maybe just stuff one with feathers and just kind of leave it in there for a little while?
Yeah, that's what I do. I mean, I leave them in there. And I kept a lot of feathers this year for, our bumpers and research, but it keeps them a lot longer. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then the one thing you mentioned, Addison, was you can actually replace the rope. Is that right? And is that you just? It's probably really hard to describe on a podcast, so I didn't realize that, and that's pretty cool actually. Because I was thinking in my mind, I was like, oh, what if this does get chewed up or whatever?
Yeah,
how would one replace that?
Yeah, so trying to walk you through this from the rope side, where the rope's sticking out of the bumper. If you pull that rope all the way, I think it comes where it's loose, where like the rope can go in. You pull it all the way and it kind of clicks into place, like you're there and stop. Well, you just push back down on that rope, and it pushes the whole. It's a rope with two studs at the end of it with a rope retainer clip, and you take the plug off and you push it all the way out so that rope sticks out enough to where you can take that clip off, and then you can pull the rope all the way through.
Oh, right on. Okay.
That side. And the two studs are there so you can adjust it if you want a little bit longer rope, a little bit shorter rope. But then honestly, the rope is more durable. It's like the most durable part on it. And really? So I think it's going to be, we're seeing a lot of ropes getting chewed up, but that was a concern just because every other bumper's rope gets chewed up.
Sure.
So, but yeah, you can replace it. I think what's come out of it is just being removable for pile work or puppy work or whatever. Like just being able to remove it has more advantage than, we just haven't seen a need to replace it yet.
Sure. That's pretty awesome. I saw, I think you guys did Gunner, I think you guys were at like a trade show not too long ago, right after you released the bumper, and I think you had on social media, you're like, bring us your old bumper, and we'll give you give you the new Gunner one.
Yeah,
Do you guys
that was
collect a lot of old ones?
yeah. It was. We were trying to figure out a way to make that work, like just in general, but the cost of shipping and just the cost of was like this doesn't make any sense, and so the idea was to do it at shows and as an activation. And so I think they sold out and received a lot of old bumpers really quick because they went
awesome.
To all 2 or 3 days. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's cool. Hey, just a couple more questions on the company here. Can you guys talk a little bit more about your partnership or kind of how that works with Ducks Unlimited and some of the work you guys are doing with them?
Yeah. I mean, going back to like original goals, Ducks Unlimited, I drew up an ad for a magazine, like just sketching it. And it was a Ducks Unlimited edition kennel. I'd always wanted to do that. And I've always wanted to support. We support a lot of different nonprofits that we talk about and don't talk about. And they're kind of in 3 veins. Mostly it's conservation, because that goes back to the getting kids outdoors and just preserving our land and wildlife. And also we do a lot of support for military and making sure, because I've seen dogs change veterans' lives for the better. So we try to support those organizations. But Ducks Unlimited specifically, they're right down the road from us in Memphis. And I met with them, year one, trying to figure out a way to work together. And they, we've always had a good relationship. We were just never at a point that we could actually support anybody. We could barely support ourselves. And then, we decided, it's been over a year. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We decided, to do a Ducks Unlimited edition product so that we can support them. And, I think people all have their favorite conservation organizations, but the reality is they all are doing things for the right reasons. And, they're great partners in terms of, if we need anything, if they need anything, we love helping each other out, and just proud to be able to support them. And we're a proud sponsor, which is their top tier, which just blew me away. Like, I think for the first 3 months I was pinching myself, like, we're in the same world as like these gigantic companies. They've got, I think, about 10 or a dozen. Yeah. I can promise you we're the smallest ones on there.
But it seems like a good fit, though. It seems like a natural fit, though, for you guys to be working together.
Yeah. And we love doing.
Oh, I'm sorry. And how does that work as far as, because you have is it the green edition kennel and food crate and all that? Does a portion of proceeds, when someone buys one of those, does a portion of the proceeds go back right directly to DU?
Yep, to National DU. And then we do our flyway series that we do different flyways, and we find a local chapter, and a portion of those proceeds will go directly to that chapter.
Oh, right on. That's awesome. I love that. Speaking of the new flyway series, what do you call this color now?
What's the official name?
Susquehanna.
Well, no, the name of the color. I guess he's asking the
color itself.
We never say what the color is, but it's like a chocolate brown. It looks so much better in person.
It looks good in the photos. It looks real good.
But it's the flyway. It's the Susquehanna Flats on the Atlantic Flyway.
How do you say that? Susquehanna?
Susquehanna. This crazy thing is, Emily, the flyway series, her brainchild. The first one she did was Bayou Mita in Arkansas, because that's kind of where I grew up duck hunting. And then it was Los Banos, which you could also say is Los Banos, but that's not the correct way to say it. Sure. And then Anahuac. And I was like,
all these crazy.
I was like, is a prerequisite that you cannot physically pronounce this? And so it's been random every time. She finds just great stories about history and heritage of waterfowl. Oh, wow. Then tries to match the color of the region to the color of the kennel and other products. And it's Susquehanna. It's probably going to be wrong unless you're from there.
Then we're all going to get a bunch of DMs going, this is how you actually pronounce it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. No, but it looks incredible. I just saw it today or the day before. It's kind of like this, almost like a rust color, a rust orangish brownish. It's hard to
Yeah.
describe, but
I describe it like it's a rich chocolate. I don't know,
yeah,
not dark chocolate, but like a chocolate. Yeah. I don't know how to describe it, but it's a cool looking brown.
it is nice. My first thought when I was looking at it, I was like, well, I'm gonna have a conversation with my wife and see if I can get permission for a couple new kennels for Win Engage.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's pretty cool looking. And that's all the flyway series are tied back into DU, correct?
Yeah. Each local chapter that we do,
Okay.
that started before our official partnership with Ducks Unlimited
Oh,
to
right
do
on.
that.
Right on.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, very cool, Addison. As we kind of wrap this thing up, it's been so fun just getting to know. I love getting the kind of sneak peek behind the curtain of a company, some of the struggles you've been through, some of the highs and lows, and just kind of behind the scenes. So I appreciate that. But one of the questions I like to ask every guest is kind of talk to the new hunter out there. Talk to someone who's listening to this, just getting into bird dogs, hunting. What's some advice you might give them?
Find a seasoned or a local, find somebody that knows what they're doing and see how you can help them, and then build a relationship and see if they can help you. Because I kind of had to teach myself everything in terms of getting into bow hunting and deer hunting and just everything that's kind of self-taught. And I can promise you, I'm not the great white hunter, like, or whatever they say. It's like, it's much better to have somebody that's already made those mistakes and learn from other experience, family and stuff like that. But that'd be my advice: is find somebody that knows what they're doing and try to build a relationship with them.
Yeah, that's great, man. Hey, Colton, I'm going to put you on the spot, man.
Right.
Same question for you. Talking to a new hunter out there, someone who's just getting into this sport we all love. What's a piece of advice you might give them?
Absolutely. Great question. I would say for me personally, and, take into consideration, I'm 26 right now. So, I'm not like, the seasoned veteran, but I would say just be patient and focus on your craft specifically. So, take your time in the field, with your gun dog, have patience, and really focus on perfecting, the specific type of hunt that you want to get good at, whether it's upland, waterfowl, really just devote yourself to perfecting your craft.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's great advice.
And buy like a dozen gunner bumpers and a gunner kennel.
Yes, there you go.
And that, yeah, that's part of it.
Kidding.
Good start. Last section here as we bring this thing home. I got a couple rapid fire questions I like to ask every guest, and so feel free. Both of you can answer these. We can bounce back and forth. We can just kind of go from there. But Gunner, or let's start with you, Addison. I don't know why I keep calling you Gunner, man.
It happens all the time. I promise. You call me whatever.
Oh, I'm the worst. I am the worst. For you, Addison, what came first, the dog, the gun, or the bird?
The dog, then the gun, then the bird. And that's going back to childhood. Like, I first had a chocolate lab. I'd ride his back like he was a horse, and then got a BB gun, and then shot my first dove, and then was hooked from there. So yeah, that'd be the order: dog, gun, bird.
Okay, Colton, same question for you, man.
Who I would honestly probably dog, bird, gun. And I say that specifically because, growing up, just like Addison said, I was obsessed with the dogs. And then soon after, I realized that the dog is obsessed with the bird. Mm. And then the gun is how I'm going to ultimately make the dog happy and bring that to him. So it kind of worked like that. I knew I've realized at an early age that the dog was obsessed with me as well, but he was equally as obsessed with the bird.
Sure.
And that's kind of how I bring happiness to him. It's with the gun.
That's awesome. Colton, for you, what gun are you carrying into the field and why?
That's a tough one. So I'm fortunate now to have just a small collection of automatics, over-unders. But my favorite still to date is one that my dad got me just a few years back. It was made by Savage Arms. And I think it's called a Stevens 555. We found it at Cabela's. And it was one of the cheaper over and under options at the time on the shelf. And I don't know how many rounds I've shot out of it. It doesn't have like perfect tolerance even anymore. It's like kind of shaky sometimes at the stock. So it's still my favorite to actually take it apart, once or twice every season, and kind of like I'll laser engrave it and kind of put etchings on it, kind of like my version of tattoos on the gun.
There you go.
And it's still my favorite gun. I've got, guns that probably work better than that one, but that's usually the one
that fits you well. And that's awesome. That's awesome. Addison, for you, what gun are you carrying into the duck blind?
So I've got a Browning Gold Silver now. I had a Browning Gold Auto from the time I was like 13 till, I use that for everything. And then once Gunner passed away, and the gun was really old, but you just can't beat it. And Browning Silver is a little bit more of the Upland version, but it's my go-to. It's got the same gut, so I can take it apart, really quick, blindfolded if I had to. And it's just I like being a little bit different, and I like the customer experience I had with them when I was in college, and so I've stuck with them. But yeah, I just love a Browning Gold Auto or a Browning Gold Silver.
That's awesome. And then Addison, what if you had to pick one gauge for the rest of your life? What gauge you shooting?
I'd say 12, just because if you got, I'm more of a meat guy, and that's just a way to get more meat.
There you go. Bring those big birds down. Addison, for you, what was your favorite dog breed besides the ones you have owned? So we're thinking outside the box here. Can't go labs.
Yeah, I've always loved Drothars for what they can do and how they can do a little bit of everything, all the way to baying hogs and being a hog dog. But it can do upland, it can be blood trail for deer, it can do waterfowl. So I think they're really cool, and just the whole breeding story. That's the first one that comes to mind. I could list like 10 more, but that's probably the one I'll pick.
Yeah. Could you ever foresee yourself going to a pointing breed like that?
Yeah. One day I'd love to, if I had the time, I'd love to have a kennel with, a dozen different dogs and be able to hunt them all. So definitely not right now, but.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Colton, for you, favorite bird to hunt and why?
Ooh, probably the bobwhite quail.
Oh, okay.
I think that came from just growing up in kind of like the Dixie region that I did, and there's no upland birds that are actually readily available around here, but I think those were kind of the ones that were left over on the old, farms and row crop fields. There's still a few wild coveys around, that we kind of track and keep up with. So I think the bobwhite quail is definitely my favorite.
Right on. Addison, same question for you. Favorite bird to hunt and why?
It used to be probably a pintail. That's just kind of, for me, that's the lucky one, the gorgeous looking bird, and just like hard for the areas that I hunt. There's other areas that you can get them, but a lot easier. But I'm struggling between that or a dove, just because that was my
really?
Hunting was a dove, and there's something about being the fall, getting into hunting season, starting off with a good dove hunt, but also just now with all these kids, taking all my kids on dove hunts. And so kind of that entry point, that just right now, having a lot of young kids,
sure.
I'm getting them into it with dove hunting. So either a pintail or a dove.
Yeah, you might be the first guest in all these episodes to say dove hunt or a dove as your favorite bird. That's a first here.
And it's weird. I'm a 12 gauge guy. I'm talking about dove.
Yeah, we're just, man, you're all over the map here.
I've always said hit it with a big hammer. I think they're kind of doing it too much with a 12 gauge.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. Last two questions for you guys. Let's go, stick with Addison for here. Your go-to snack on a hunting trip.
Like a Snickers or just peanut butter crackers. I always have peanut butter crackers or Snickers in my blind bag, and that usually does the trick if I'm getting hungry.
Right on. I can go with a good Snickers. Colton, go-to snack on a hunting trip.
Uncrustables.
Oh yeah, there we go. 100%. There we go. We would get along well.
Every day.
Those are one of the best. Put those in the coolers, let them, defrost a little bit, and those things are money. Colton, beverage of choice after a hunt.
Depends. If it's after a good day of hunting, I like to have cold beer. That's probably my go-to.
Yeah, there you go.
Fat tire beer, but I like a Coors Banquet.
Oh yeah, good old Coors.
Yeah.
Addison, beverage of choice after a hunt.
If it's an Upland or a Dove, it'd be a cold beer. If it's waterfowl or it's really cold outside, probably like a Weller on the rocks. Some, good bourbon.
Right on. I like how you got categories. I like how you're like, Upland hunt this.
Yeah.
Waterfowl.
Well, if it's hot out, you want a beer. If it's cold out, probably.
That's true. Yeah. Very different.
Yeah, I get it. That's awesome, guys. Well, thank you both so much. Colton, Addison, thanks for jumping on here. Thanks for sharing more about your story. You're getting into hunting, your family, your kids, and again, more about Gunner Kennels. I think it was super fun. So thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's great.
Absolutely.
Anytime. Yeah, I'm sure we'll be talking soon. And good luck this fall. I know we're getting ready for that September 1st opening. So I know a lot of people are excited and counting down the days until hunting season. So good luck to you guys this season.
Thank you.
Yeah,
you too.
Thanks. Well, that's a wrap of episode 94 with Addison Edmonds of Gunner Kennels. Addison, thank you so much for jumping on here and giving us a peek behind the curtain, some of the trials and success of Gunner Kennels and what that looked like getting this off the ground. That was an inspiring story of hearing some of the trials that you went through, some of the grinding, and still to this day, the work you guys are putting in there to make the best kennel on the market today, and just to see what you guys have grown into as far as new products, accessories, new bumper, all those good things. I think it's really fun to watch a company grow like that and just doing things the right way. So thank you. Hey guys, that's a wrap for today. Hope everyone's doing well, having fun out there, chasing birds. Make sure to tag the Upland Rookie Podcast in your photos. Share this episode on Instagram, Facebook. Share any episode that you like. Share it with a friend that maybe is new to upland hunting, maybe someone who needs to hear one of these episodes that would encourage them, inspire them in some way or another. Until next time, go put some miles on those boots and follow your favorite bird dog. Take care. And I just want to thank my sponsors one more time for helping make this podcast possible. Gunner Kennels, Onyx Hunt, Final Rise, Inukshuk Professional Dog Food, and NSTRA, National Shoot to Retrieve Association. I love working with companies who are run by great people who share the same values of bird hunting and outdoors and people and common respect for one another. And so I love partnering with companies like that. That is why the Upland Rookie Podcast partners with those companies. Thank you guys.